Live from the back of Ruth the Realtor's car, it's the Stacking Deeds Show. I'm Ruth's neighbor and part-time mechanic, Doug. And if you're wanting to make money in real estate without actually owning any real estate, we welcome Dr. Chau Ong, who's going to give you a PhD quality lesson in subleasing rentals. The former pharmacist who disappointed his mother by going all in on real estate is ready to give you a healthy dose of investing knowledge. In our headlines, we'll discuss the top metro areas where people are moving about the country. During Ring Ruth's Rotary, Tatyana wants to know if he should hire a lawyer for his future real estate endeavors. And then I'll share some red-blooded American trivia. And now, two hosts who are excited to celebrate National Effective Communications Month, Alan Corey and Crystal Hammond.
National Effective Communications Month? Is that even a thing?
Well, I guess they haven't communicated that to us, but now we know. I'm Alan Corey at Real Estate Maxi.
And I'm Crystal Hammond at Condo Crystal in the internet streets. I mean, I've heard of Pride Month. I know Juneteenth is this month. What else we got? Let's look at this list of what else is happening this month.
Well, you can't forget Father's Day.
Oh,
obviously.
Yeah, that too.
June 4th, as you know, Crystal, it's Hug Your Cat Day.
Did not. Okay. What else we have? We have, Blink 182 Day. I wonder why is that a thing?
It looks like they celebrate on the 182nd day of the year. So the fans, there you go.
Makes sense.
If you're a Blink 182 fan. I didn't realize there's so many days and celebrations and months, but I'm glad to be celebrating this with you today, Crystal.
Right back at you. And I see it's Rebuild Your Life Month, which actually brings me to this piece that I was reading. This comes to us from WTOP News. Jeff Claybaugh writes, the DC metro region is in the top 10 for home buyers looking to leave. That's very interesting that according to Redfin, it looks like house hunters moving to the new area, they made up 25% of searches in the first quarter. That's a record and compares to 18% before the pandemic.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, DC's an expensive city. It says that San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, DC, Boston, Seattle, those are the top 5-6 cities where people are looking to leave. That makes complete sense to me. Those are great cities. They're super expensive, and you typically have a hard time getting on the property ladder in those big cities. And with all the work from home trends, why not keep that same job that you don't have to commute to anymore and have more space and have some extra funds to go on vacation and things like that?
That is true, because I'm seeing it says that these could be vacation home buyers or people who are looking to downsize somewhere that's nearby, but also more affordable. And then this is an interesting take on interest rates, because they're saying that most of these homes are in, higher priced areas. They have more equity. So they're actually going to be having lower mortgage payments because they're cashing in on their equity to move to these cheaper metro areas.
When I lived in New York City, my friend group was very transient. They would move in, get married, get the job promotion that they want, and then leave town, 2-3 years later. It was just this influx of people coming in and going. And so many times you'd have those conversations for the people who actually bought in New York City saying, wow, my property went up so much in value. I can sell this and go buy something in all cash somewhere else. I don't care. I don't need to worry about the interest rates. So that checks out from my experience.
Yeah, that's good reasoning. So when you're buying in these more expensive areas, now you see that when you cash in your equity, interest rates shouldn't stop you, or there are a lot of things that really shouldn't stop you because you're cashing in on your equity to buy something cheaper. Because even according to this chart, it's looking like a lot of New Yorkers are moving to Miami. A lot of people from Seattle are moving to Phoenix. A lot of Chicagoans appear to be moving to different places in Florida. A lot of Los Angeles people are moving to Texas. It looks like New York and California are moving to Texas.
Yeah, and we'll have this chart in the show notes at stackingdeeds.net/show notes. But what I see here, if you look at the top 10 sort of destination cities, so you want to say, it's Miami, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Tampa, Orlando, Sacramento, Cape Coral, Florida, Sarasota, Dallas, Houston, all these, except for Sacramento, California, have, I believe, zero income tax. And so they're in states that are very tax friendly. So if someone is making that financial decision to move to a cheaper place, or they've got equity to put into a home, that could be a very valid reason here, because 9 out of 10 in very sort of tax-friendly states makes sense to me that if you're going to be paid the same and you're able to keep your job in that big, expensive city, let's go somewhere where you don't have that income tax.
Way to spot the trend. I didn't even see that. Yeah. So there you go. That's no income tax. You're cashing in on some equity, and you're pretty much living almost in paradise, it looks like, because you're moving from a tougher weather climate to a more friendly weather climate.
Yeah. And so what do we read into this? Like, do you invest in these cities? The long and short of it is it depends on what you want to invest in, because there's money to be made in the big cities if you're an appreciation investor, because those big cities, you can buy a property, it'll double, triple in value typically in 10 to 12 years. It feels a little bit about gambling. You're just buying something expensive, but it's evergreen and it's going to get more expensive. That's appreciation investing. Sort of smaller towns where it doesn't have that fast, crazy appreciation, it's cash flow investing, because you can get in at a cheaper price. And so there's no wrong decision. You can make money doing both, but for safety and reduce risk, go where the jobs are. If there's jobs, or if there's a growing city, that's usually a good sign that the real estate prices will grow as well.
And speaking of growing, here's another piece. I think you found this one from U.S. News and World Report. And this one talks about the fastest growing places in the U.S. in 2022 and 2023. So it looks like this is right on trend with what we just talked about in the other piece. It looks like Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We've got Florida, Lakeland, Florida. We've got Sarasota, Florida. We've got it's a lot of Florida here. Not sure how Idaho made the list.
Well, that seems like a resort town. Yeah, but it's also a recreationist paradise out there. So I've had some friends move to Boise, Idaho as well recently too.
Really?
But I am also hearing some murmurings once people move to Florida about how expensive the hurricane insurance is and flood insurance. And pretty much most of Florida is in a flood zone. So just be careful. It's not super cheap. They usually make up for some of those expenses in other ways when you're buying real estate down there.
So when are you going to visit your friends in Idaho?
I know. I'd like to. The photos are pretty. And so that usually will win me over. Yeah, that's fun.
I've never seen an Idaho picture.
It's a beautiful state. Well, Crystal, I'm excited to talk to Dr. Chau today. He's going to drop some knowledge on subleasing. If you're not familiar to what subleasing is, it's you rent something from someone and then you turn around and rent it for someone else for hire. So it's basically taking your rental lease. You don't even actually have to own the property, and you flip it and rent it to someone else. So this is something we haven't talked about today. So I'm really excited to hear how Dr. Chau runs his business strictly through subleasing.
I can't wait to hear about it too, but I think Doug has some trivia for us first. Take it away, Doug.
Hey there, Deeters. I'm Ruth's Fetch It Boy, Doug, and you are learning about real estate in June, which is also National Homeownership Month. So throw yourself a barbecue if this applies to you. Let's talk about the biggest celebrator of this feat, which is the U.S. government, aka the world's largest landowner. That's right, Uncle Sam owns most of the world. But just how big is the White House's portfolio? Is it A, 400 million acres of land, the size of Iran, B, 500 million acres, or C, 700 million acres of land, the size of Argentina? I'll be right back to give you the answer, but first, I'm going to see if the president is looking for a new real estate agent. I smell some sweet commission checks coming my way soon. Hey there, Deeters. I'm your newly licensed realtor and part-time mechanic to Ruth, neighbor Doug. As mentioned, the Red, White, and Blue own the most land in the world, but just how large is that investment? Is it A, 400 million acres of land, B, 500 million acres, or C, 700 million acres? Well, if you like to tango, then you're in luck, as the answer is C, 700 million acres. Wowzers! If I were them, I'd pad that a little bit and say I own the moon too. You just have to put a flag on it to claim it, right? That's how it still works? Speaking of the moon, it is time for our star of the show, Dr. Chau Ong, who is actually a non-land and non-property owner who created a booming real estate empire solely through subletting. Let's get back to Alan and Crystal and find out how he's getting that done. Probably with a killer spacesuit, right, guys?
Hey, it's Dr. Chau. Come on in. Would love to talk to you.
Okay, all right. Hey, Alan, good to see you.
Good to see you. Make yourself cozy here in the back. And
Yeah.
we have a podcast booth in the back of Ruth the Realtor's car.
And this thing is off the chain, bro. Off the chain. Where you get this from?
Well, this is Ruth's longtime ride, but thankfully she lets us record podcasts here and drive around, pick great folks like you up.
Cool.
So, Dr. Chau, first, before we get started, are you still a doctor, I should say?
So I do have my doctorate, yes. However, I'm not practicing.
What sort of doctor were you?
I'm a doctor in pharmacy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You pivoted from pharmacy to real estate?
Yes. Yeah.
What made you even consider real estate to begin with?
A little bit backstory. I came from here from Vietnam. Absolutely nothing, no English, with me, my mom, my dad, my sister, sacrificing everything, working the dry cleaners like 12 hours a day, cut and burn themselves. I was only 10 years old, so I was like, man, I gotta do something, but I don't want to see my mom keep on crying. So, and we thought the American dream. I mean, how many of you been sold that, you know, you need to go to school, become a doctor, lawyer, engineer, finance major, whatever it is, so that way you can become that person with a degree with something, so that way you can take care of your family, right? And got my doctorate, got my MBA as well. So I thought I made it. I was like, within my first year, Alan, I won the Pharmacy of the Year award from a Fortune 10 company. I thought I made it. I'm like, man, mom, don't worry about nothing. I'm going to take care of you from now on, right? Next thing I know, they gave me way more work and less help without any increasing pay, anything. I had like 2% raise. So it doesn't do anything. I was like, this is BS, man. I climbed the ladder of success all the way to the top. I did everything society told me to do, but then I found out I leaned against the wrong wall, the wrong building. So how did I get out? I was trapped, I was frustrated, and I was burned out. I went on my entrepreneurship journey. I tried almost everything you probably name. I tried, from MLMs to selling Italian ice to restaurants to all kind of other real estate strategies, to online drop shipping, offline drop shipping, whatever it is, right? But I found that those things, they required a lot of time or a lot of money, which I did not have. So the epiphany I had was I can leverage somebody else's property I don't even have to own and make a business out of that. And it's very low barrier of entry, very low cost to get involved, and it's very high reward as well.
I've got to imagine when you tried all these different business ventures, your mother was crying at home at each step of the way, and you're saying, I'm going to walk away from my MBA and my degree, or was she completely supportive of you?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, imagine you invested your whole life savings to your son to go to school for 8 years, and now he's going to do this Airbnb leverage arbitrage thing, whatever the hell it is, right? Yeah, it didn't go well. It didn't go well, put it that way.
All right. So let's get into this. So Airbnb arbitrage, explain it to us in a nutshell here.
Actually, what I do is the next level of Airbnb is the corporate housing arbitrage. Arbitrage is basically the difference between one price and the other price. So we would rent it for like $2,500. We would sublet it out to companies for $5,000. So we make about $2,000 per property. You can make up to $4,000 per property if you live in California or Florida. And corporate housing meaning you rent out to companies. So what are these companies? They are construction company, IT company, TV shows, insurance housing, where families go through a disaster like hurricane or flooding, and they have to find a home while their home repair. The insurance will pay, and they pay up to 10% of the value of their home, which could be like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
I think the key word that you said that I just want to make sure our listeners heard you say, it's sublet. And so the sublet, for those not completely sure what that means you don't even own these properties, right, Dr. Chau?
That's correct. That's correct. So the reason why we do that is for one home that you like do a flip, a rehab, or you buy, you can do 10 of these arbitrage because it doesn't cost you anything. It's only the cost you first month rent and first month deposit. and furnitures. That's it. Furniture, you can even rent that. So why do we do that? Because if you have all your eggs in one basket, if that basket drop, what happened to all your eggs, right? So it's gone, right? I have a lot of flipper friends who, because of the interest rate and the hike in this, they lost everything very much, and years of savings. However, when I tell them about this, they're like, man, I wish I knew about this earlier. So instead of doing that one flip that got flop deal, they can just take that and do 10 arbitrage. The reason why you do 10 arbitrage is because even if two of them go wrong, you still have 80% of your risk, right? So it's very low risk. You make like 2K a month per property. So even if two of them go wrong, you make 8, that's 16K a month. That's about 200K a year.
Yeah, that's great.
Instead of doing like a rehab, a flip where you can make like 50 to 100K, and if it's flop, you lose like 100K. This you're making it month one, and then you're making it the whole year, which is like equal to a lot more than that. Most people will just go to landlord, hey, can Airbnb your property, right? So I'm going to say like, hey, Alan, let's say you're the landlord. I love your property. It's wonderful. So we do corporate housing, Alan. We help place medical professionals, travel professionals, or insurance housing into this place. So one, we're going to have it clean every few months. I'm going to pay for it. Secondly, any maintenance under $200 a month, I'm going to pay for it myself. I'm going to do my best to fix it. I'm not even going to call you the middle of the night, basically managing it for you for free. 3, we have corporate clients, so they are a lot better than traditional rental, right? Not individual. These are corporations. They're not like, there's like 0 evictions we had over the past 8 years, if you believe it or not, 0. And then signing the lease, we can do a 3 years lease instead of a 1 year lease. And then the last thing is, if you say no, even after all of that, like this should be like a no-brainer by now. I'm going to ask you like, hey, Alan, has any tenants actually offer you all these things when you apply for the property? You're going to say like, no, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And what kind of properties are you zeroing in on? Do these have to be apartment buildings, or are they single family in certain city centers? What's the criteria?
Single family, 4 bedroom and 2.5 bath is the sweet spots.
Have you ever had issues with a bad tenant who's renting your house for their job that you've had to go back to their employer and say, this didn't go well?
Not really. The best tenant I had was like the vacationer. That's why I stepped away from that. I scaled to like 23 vacation rental. And after dealing with all the weed or the alcohol and the throwing parties, I'm done with it. The moment that I decided I'm done with that, I switched over to, it's like night and day, man. Because these people are good people that just want to go to sleep when they get home. They don't have energy to do anything crazy. And plus, their job is on the line. So they're not going to do anything crazy, And even if they damage the property, the company has money. Insurance has money to pay for it. So, it's a lot easier to just get those money from them.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So your upfront costs are basically the security deposit, the furniture, getting it listed, and then really sort of the grunt work of contacting those HR companies or building a network of placements of corporate housing. But yeah, I've done this personally. I've got film crews that sort of come through some of my rentals sometime, and they definitely pay double market rent, and they'll book it for 2 or 3 months at a time. And it's hard, I've found, to just keep it filled for 12 months out of the year because it's so sporadic. I would imagine you sort of have longer vacancy periods in between some of these longer stays.
Because I've been doing this for a long time, I have a lot of sources. Because most people will just focus on one, or they not like totally have all the experience that they have. So we don't just have one audience, right? We have construction companies, we have IT company, we have engineers, we have medical travel professionals, we have insurance housing, and then we have maybe some government contracts. So all these, once you have a pipeline of so many leads, you don't even have enough houses to host them sometimes. So yeah.
This is great info. Thank you for sharing it with us. Looks like Ruth's about to pull up to your next corporate housing venture here. Any way that our listeners can follow up with you, Dr. Chau?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go on beyondbnbsecrets.com. You can get the blueprints on how to do this. You can also book a free strategy consultation call with our team. We're going to have our top advisor on there to take it very seriously. This costs a lot of money for us to do this, but because, we like you guys and we want to help, so that way they can get a call with them and really map out a customized game plan for them. You can also follow me on social media at Dr. Chau B&B. That is DRCHAU BNB. That is the only correct social media. There's some fake accounts, but that's the real one. Okay. So there's no dot, there's no exclamation mark. It's just at Dr. Chau B&B, Instagram, TikTok. I want to give you guys a gift, a couple of secrets, so that way you want to walk away with something that is more higher level. I came up with a 4-step process. It's called FAST, fast method, make money fast, get freedom fast, right? So F is to find the right location. A, to ask to sublet. S is to set up to stand out. And T, to tap into corporate clients. So we touched a little bit on everything, but that's easier to remember. And also finding the right location, because what's the number one rule in real estate?
Location. Yeah.
And most people will tell you it takes a lot to find the right location, which it does. But after you really figure out some simple secrets I'm about to share with you, would you like to know how you can figure it out in minutes and have about 90% shot that is right? Okay, so the 3 H's. It's called highways, hospitals, and hotels. When 2 highways intersect, that's where the money traffic flow, attention flow, money flow. And then when 2 highways intersect, there's 4 sections. So for some reason, the hotel and hospital will congregate in one of those 4 sections. Why? Who cares? We don't care. What we know is those are the whales. They'd already done, if they drop $100 million into a project, they've done their research. So we just follow them. Follow the whales and you will get fed. So you want your property within about 5 to 10 minutes drive of these hospitals and highways. And you got a golden ticket, basically.
All right. So what I'm hearing is for location, you need to have the 3 H's, hospitals, hotels, and highways within a 10-minute drive, a single family house, 4-bedroom, 3-bath. That seems to be the best product and location.
Yeah.
Great. You said A was asked to sublet. I think that's very self-explanatory. Ask the landlord. You give a great spiel before of why a corporate housing tenant would be a better service and take better care of your product. What was that? S?
S is set up to stand out.
Okay.
So as you know, Airbnb is so saturated right now. How do you stand out, right? And that will take a whole day. However, for this corporate, I just give you some simple secrets. Basically, you want to create an environment where they can rest. So blackout curtains is a must. Noise reduction fan as well. And then, of course, something small for them, like Starbucks gift card, always a good thing. Chocolate for the ladies, that kind of thing. A grill in the backyard. And then focus your top 5 pictures to be like different areas of the house that are unique. Something unique, something different where they can like turn and like, whoa, interesting. So they can stop what they throw through the places, right? Whether it's like the backyard, you have a deck or the landscaping or some cool painting that you have or something. So that way they're like, oh, interesting. And just that one pause can make you a lot more income because they're now to check out your property.
Yeah, well, first of all, the chocolate's not just for the ladies. I'm a big fan of chocolate, and
Me too.
5-star review for a mint. I mean, I'm a pushover, but no, I see that all the time in creative Airbnb listings, which is short term. But yeah. The funky sort of basement with rock climbing wall or something neat that really makes it stand out. So I get that, and then. What was the last letter?
Last is tap into corporate housing. It's like you tap into the power, right? If you plug into the power, you're going to get fed.
Well, thank you, Chau. Appreciate you coming in and going for the ride and teaching us all about corporate Airbnbs. This has been eye-opening, and it's so cool to just hear more newer ways to make money in real estate investing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I promise to end with a real quick heartwarming story, right? So my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and I couldn't take care of her at all. So that's why I did this business. And I can remember like yesterday, it's like 3 a.m. and she was about to get brain surgery, and I couldn't even stay with her because I had to go back to work. I was like, this got to change. So now she's 12 years cancer survivor. Praise God for that. And now I'm able to take her to a beautiful, amazing, like living at a dream home and do whatever she want to do, retire her and retire my dad. So picture that day for you and your family, whatever it is, right? For me, it was taking them to a beautiful resort overlooking the ocean. And she looked me straight in the eyes. She said, son, thank you so much for changing our lives. Thank you so much for taking that leap of faith and never give up. Because even though I was trying to stop you, thank God you didn't listen to me. And so picture that day for you and hold on to that dream, no matter what it is, whoever say anything, just do not ever give up and just push on, get a mentor, get a support group, and we'll help you every step of the way.
Thanks for joining us, Dr. Chau. He really had a lot of great takeaways. So my takeaway, he has his 4-step process fast. So it's like fast, find the right location, ask to sublet, set up to stand out, and tap into corporate housing. Like these are really good points because the location is most important. So finding those highways, hospitals, and hotels, his 3H, he really dropped a lot of gems.
I mean, I'll tell you, as a landlord, whenever I put something up for rent, the first 10 calls are people who want to sublet it. So this is definitely not a secret. This is what people are doing. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. I really got to size up whether I want to handle the short-term rental aspect or the midterm rental aspect, because it is a hospitality business on top of being a real estate investor. And I'm fine, let someone else run it on some properties. But if the money's that good and they're offering me so much more in rent to rent it than when I'm asking, I'm like, oh, maybe this is something I should consider and do myself. So it's a case by case basis for me, but this is not unheard of. This is very common everywhere.
And I like that this is a low barrier of entry kind of way to get into the real estate, because he did say you're actually not owning anything. So all you're owning is a lease pretty much. And there you go. You go from there.
Yeah, it's really the conversation, your relationship with the landlord to allow you to do this. And as long as you sort of monitor so there's not crazy parties and you really sort of push, like he said, that we'll take better care of your property and we can sign a 3-year lease and all these things that sort of the worries of a landlord, you can sort of overcome them. And then that initial contact and that phone call can really make both parties a lot of money.
And that was a good point that he made. He's like, he stays away from vacation rentals because they party too much. He's like, a lot of these, the corporate, they're tired. They want to go to sleep when they get home. So that is a better, corporate tenants are definitely a good look. We will include the breakdown of our conversation with Dr. Chau in the show notes. So make sure you head to stackingdeeds.net/show notes so that we can hand deliver the show notes to your inbox every week.
I hear the phone ringing, which means it's the last segment of the day. Ring Ruth's Rotary. Do you mind if I answer it today? Let's see what's going on. All right. Hello, you've reached the back of Ruth the Realtor's car.
Hi, Crystal and Alan. This is Tatyana. I just wanted to ask, should I use a real estate attorney or a lawyer?
All right, Tatyana, great question.
That's a good question.
I don't know if she's asking us, is there a difference between a lawyer and an attorney, or she should just use one in general? What do you think, Crystal?
I think she's like, do I need a lawyer? Who do I need when I'm making a decision, a real estate decision? Do I need a lawyer?
Okay. We're going to assume that they're one and the same. I believe they are. I refer to them interchangeably. I think we all know the answer to this. I'll say this. It depends on the state that you live in. It's the long and short of it. Will I ever advise you not to use an attorney to close a property? No. Like, it's just wise advice across the board to use an attorney to settle these things. It's quite interesting. When I lived in New York City required both the buyer and the seller had to get their own individual attorneys. And those closings take forever because attorneys take forever and they don't work weekends or late at night and they charge by the hour. So those deals slow down a bit. But in Georgia, where I live now, you're not required to have an attorney, but it's something I'd highly recommend. And typically, if both sides don't have an attorney and you're at the closing table, but there is an attorney that's doing the closing table, do you know who that closing attorney is actually representing?
Both?
No, they're representing the bank, the mortgage lender. So if you don't have the attorney then represents the mortgage lender. And the reason for that is the mortgage lender wants an attorney to do his job or her job. And that job specifically is saying, does this party have the right to sell this property? Is there any unencumbered liens or issues with the title? It's referred to as clouded title. Like is in the past, was there an inheritance or a divorce, and did the paperwork get done properly? All these sort of things are important. so that when this new buyer ever wants to go sell, that they actually can sell because the title is clean and it's not clouded. So you want an attorney to figure out all these things before you buy, that you can actually buy it, that someone can't claim it later, that you can actually sell it later. So it's very important to hire an attorney to do these things. So I don't know why you would want to cheap out on this, because it's basically someone vetting that this is a real transaction and you're getting what you think you're paying for and verifying that. It's just that confidence boost.
Fun fact, in Illinois, I did not have a lawyer for my first transaction, but I did consult with a lawyer. So I did have a lawyer look over everything. And then I would ask, what kind of budget then should I prepare for an attorney? Like, is this like $1,000 or is this a couple $100?
It depends state by state, and also probably how tricky the transaction is. I think I've paid, the cheapest I've ever paid is $350, but that was rare and that was really clean and easy. And I think I was selling it to myself or like one entity to another. But it's going to probably be about $1,200 to $1,500, I think, on average to do. And these are called closing costs. So when you actually buy a property, a good rule of thumb that I use, at least, is about 3% of the purchase price goes to closing cost. What that means is that, let's say you're buying a house for $100,000. So 3% of that's $3,000. That's just extra money you're going to need on top of your down payment. Half of that at the closing table goes to the closing attorney and the mortgage fees, because the mortgage lender's in business too. They're going to have some fees. And so half of that's going to just pay for the fees to get the transaction done. And the other half is typically prepaid stuff that is going to be required by the mortgage company. Typically 3 to 6 months prepaid of property taxes. Same with homeowners insurance. It's stuff you're going to have to pay for anyway. They just collect a big chunk up front. And so that's sort of things that you need to budget for. And that's sort of looped into the closing costs and money that you're going to need outside of your down payment. So just be prepared for that. But again, I don't know. I would always I pay for the attorney. I'm a type of guy that, like, I want it done right, just because the worst thing is cleaning up the mess later. And now there is money to be made to buy these clouded titles that can't be sold. And typically they're sold with seller financing because a mortgage lender can't buy it. And so if you kind of get these properties at a deep discount and you're willing to go through the trouble to clean them up, then yeah, there's money to be made there, but it doesn't always work in your favor. So it's sort of a numbers game. Maybe 8 out of 10 are going to work out in your favor and make you a lot of money, when 2 you maybe never be able to solve or sell again, kind of thing.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for that call, Tatyana. And if you have a question for Alan and I to answer, head over to stackingdeeds.net/voicemail. Leave us a message and we'll answer your question just like we did Tatyana's today.
That was a fun ride, Crystal. I had so much fun hearing from Dr. Chau.
Yes.
It's so interesting to me. I always see there's a million ways to make $1 million in real estate. And just hearing all these different things that I've never thought of, or that's new. Like, I don't think this sort of midterm rental business existed when I got started 20 years ago. So it's so cool to see how technology and job trends are really changing real estate investing.
And it does. It really has my wheels turning, because they are building a new hospital within 10 miles of my place. So this has me thinking, hey, maybe I want to try to reach out to the hospital. Like, hey, I may be looking to move, because from our headlines, I may be looking to move and maybe turn my place into a subleasing arbitrage.
Would this disappoint your mother, Crystal?
Of course not.
Good. Well, then you don't have to go down the Dr. Chau path. Well, thanks for tuning in to Stacking Deeds. Doug, what should we have learned today?
So, what should we have learned today? First, take some scholarly advice from Dr. Chau, who prescribes subleasing midterm rentals only near hospitals, highways, and hotels. Second, lawyers are not something to cheap out on with real estate. Like all things, you get what you pay for. But the big lesson? The White House has no park benches for me to advertise my new realtor business on. I gotta put this Olin Mills Kmart headshot on something. Maybe there's space on the moon? Thanks to Dr. Chau Ong for joining us today. You can find out more about his work at Dr. Chau B&B. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingdeeds.net. Tip of the hat to our producer Jasmine Radler, audio editor Steve Stewart, and our hosts Crystal Hammond and Alan Corey, who are found online at Condo Crystal and at Real Estate Maxi.